The hearing lasts 11 minutes. Cale Dorn stands in the center of room 4 at the Ironville Hunter Bureau's disciplinary floor with his hands in his coat pockets, and his expression somewhere between bored and carved from stone. Around him, 3 review officers read from a prepared statement. Director Vael sits at the head of the table, silver cufflinks catching the light, watching Cale the way a man watches something he's already decided to throw away. The charges are fabricated. Cale knows it. He knew it the moment the summons arrived, knew it by the specific details in the written complaint, details about his personal finances, his private contacts, his off-book surveillance methods. Details that only one person had ever heard him mention out loud. Sina. He doesn't look for her name in the file. He already found it last night, buried in the source disclosure section on page 9. Confidential informant. 3 signed statements. He had read it once, set the file flat on the table, made himself a coffee, and sat with the silence for an hour. Not because he needed to process it, because he wanted to be very clear when the morning came that he felt nothing except the particular cold calm of a man who now knows exactly what he is doing. Sina had been with him for 2 years. They had met on a joint operation in the Sale district. She was smart and careful and laughed at things most people didn't bother finding funny. She had also, it turned out, been quietly passing personal information to Director Vael for at least the last 6 months, and somewhere in those 6 months, passing other things too, because the way Vail's assistant had referred to her in the pre-hearing paperwork was not the way a man's assistant refers to a source. It was the way she refers to the director's companion. The lead officer clears his throat. Operative Dorn. The Bureau finds sufficient grounds to void Hunter License HD0077 with immediate effect. All associated assets, Bureau equipment, registered class certification, bounty account, and enforcement clearance are hereby frozen pending full review. 11 years. 42 confirmed S-rank operations. The highest solo clearance record in the Bureau's Veldran City division. All of it erased in a prepared statement that takes less than 2 minutes to read. Vail's mouth does something that isn't quite a smile. Cale pulls his badge from his coat pocket and sets it on the table. He doesn't slam it. He doesn't say a word. He turns for the door. Dorn, Vail's voice, even now, carries the easy authority of a man who has never once doubted himself. You should have known when to stop pulling threads. Cale doesn't stop walking. Outside, the elevator descends 42 floors in silence. The lobby of the Ironville Hunter Bureau is all polished gray marble and the quiet hum of a system that has just decided he no longer exists. He walks through the glass doors, out into Veldran City's midday noise, and keeps moving. He gets 3 blocks before the system speaks. System Hunter License HD0077 void confirmed. Dormant classification sequence initiated. Bloodline seal releasing. Dragon Sovereign class unlocked. Cale stops on the pavement. Around him, suits and shopping bags and lunch hour traffic. He looks down at his right hand. Something moves under his skin that has no name for it yet, ancient and patient and very, very large, like a creature that has been sleeping inside a sealed room for the better part of his life, and has just heard the door come off its hinges. Dragon Sovereign class designation, erased tier. Suppression period 29 years. Note, this class was sealed in the Bureau's class registry at the request of Division Director R. Vael 29 years prior, citing operational security. Seal condition, active hunter license. Void condition, license forcibly revoked under false charges. Status, active. Dragon mark system, online. He reads that twice. Vael sealed the class himself. 29 years ago, before Cale was even registered as a hunter, someone at the Bureau had looked at his bloodline scan, seen what was dormant inside it, and buried the record. The same man who framed him today. The same man who presumably spent the last 2 years making sure Sina stayed close enough to report back anything that looked like a class manifestation. He turns that over once. The patience of it is almost impressive. Then he sets it down, because the patience runs both ways, and the dragon inside him has been waiting considerably longer than Vael has. He puts his phone in his pocket, turns up the collar of his gray coat, and walks toward the dark zone district that Veldran City's bureau has failed to clean up for the better part of a decade. He's going to start there. The dark zones are exactly what the name suggests: unregistered hunter territory, no bureau patrols, criminal organizations running S-rank operations in plain sight because the bureau's upper tier has been taking quiet payments to look away. Cale has known about it for 3 years. He brought the evidence to Director Vael twice. Both times it disappeared. Now he understands why. Dragon marks work simply. Every S-rank criminal cleared generates 1 mark. Marks compound, the second doubles the output of the first, the third doubles the second. There is no ceiling in the system description. The class's secondary ability is Dragon's Eye, perfect retention of every piece of intelligence he ever touched in 11 years of fieldwork, cross-referenced and searchable, assembled into a dossier the moment the seal lifted. It is the most complete record of the Bureau's internal corruption that has ever existed. It was inside him the whole time. Vael sealed the class and inadvertently spent 29 years letting the archive fill. He spends the first night in a basement office in the Sale District, a contact's place, an old informant named Rook who never trusted the Bureau either. By morning, Cale has mapped the operational structure of the 3 largest Dark Zone cartels in Veldran City and identified the Bureau accounts where their payments land. By the end of the first week, he has cleared the Sale District's primary operation solo. 12 enforcers, 2 A-rank lieutenants, 1 S-rank cartel head who had been on the Bureau's open investigation list for 4 years. The fight lasts less than 3 minutes. Dragon's Sovereign Combat Authority at Tier 1 hits like a sovereign edict, not raw force but absolute certainty, the kind of power that tells every system in the room which way the outcome goes before it starts. The cartel head, a man with 2 A-rank bodyguards on either side, looks at Cale across a warehouse floor and says nothing. Just sits down, slowly, and puts his hands on the table. Some part of his hunter instinct recognizes what it is looking at even if his brain doesn't have the classification for it yet. Dragon Mark ×1. Dragon Sovereign Authority, EXPANDING. Independent Enforcement Status, Unregistered. Bounty Generated, Classified. Dragon's Eye Evidence Archive, Updating. The Bureau notices on day 9. Not because of the cleared operation. They've been ignoring the dark zones for years, but because 3 S-rank cartel lieutenants arrive at Bureau headquarters voluntarily and surrender with signed statements, citing a source they describe only as the man with the silver coat and the dragon in his eyes. Bureau intake officers don't know what to do with that. There's no license number. There's no registered operative matching the description. The case sits on a duty officer's desk for 18 hours, before anyone roots it upward. Vael receives the report in his office and reads it 3 times. Then he picks up his phone and dials the head of the Blackwatch unit. Blackwatch is the Bureau's elite enforcement arm. 8 operatives, all a rank or above, licensed for use of force in the dark zones. Vael deploys all 8 with instructions to bring Cale in on an unlicensed operation charge. He phrases it as a routine enforcement matter. His hands are steady when he sets the phone down. He has spent 29 years making sure this bloodline never surfaced. He tells himself the Blackwatch unit is more than enough. They find Cale on day 12 in the old Irongate Freight District, in the middle of an operation against Cartel Ren, the S-rank organization that the Bureau has been officially investigating for 4 years without result. He's alone. He's not hiding. The Blackwatch team lead, Commander Hess, holds up a temporary detainment order. Cale Dorn, you're operating without a license in a restricted enforcement zone. Stand down. Cale looks at the 8 of them. Dragon Mark ×22. Dragon Sovereign Authority Tier 3. Combat Designation, SSS Equivalent. Blackwatch Classification, OUTMATCHED, Recommend Withdrawal. He doesn't say anything threatening. He doesn't raise his voice. He just turns back to the freight office where Cartel Ren's leadership is in zip ties, finishes logging the evidence, walks past the Blackwatch team without touching a single one of them, and drops a sealed package on the ground at Hess's feet. Inside, 12 years of classified financial transfers between Cartel Ren and 4 bureau accounts. All verified. All signed by Dragon's Eye, which the system lists as legally admissible evidence under the Hunter Registry's Independent Tribunal Clause, a clause that applies specifically to erased tier classes, because the registry never bothered to update what happens when one surfaces. Nobody thought to close the door. Hess picks up the package, looks at it, looks at where Kale used to be. Calls Vael, "Director, there's a problem." The independent tribunal convenes on day 23. Not at Vael's request. The evidence package triggers it automatically under the registry clause. When a dormant erased tier class submits evidence of institutional corruption, the Hunter Registry's own legal architecture demands independent review. Vael's legal team spends 8 days trying to block it. They fail. The clause was written 300 years ago and never updated because no erased tier class had surfaced in 300 years. The tribunal meets in the central Hunter Registry building, 1 floor above bureau jurisdiction. 7 independent counselors. Kale submits his dossier through a legal representative. He doesn't attend in person. He has 3 more Dark Zone operations to clear. Dragon Mark, times 44. Dragon Sovereign Authority, Tier 4. Independent Enforcement Network, 61 registered informants. Evidence archive complete. The hearing takes 4 days. On the 5th, the tribunal's independent marshals walk into Director Vael's press conference. He's standing at a podium before 60 journalists, announcing a major bureau crackdown on Dark Zone crime, taking credit for operations he had nothing to do with, and read the arrest warrant in front of the cameras. Kale watches it on a small screen in Rook's basement. He's eating noodles. He doesn't change his expression. Vael's face, though Kale watches that carefully. The exact moment the director realizes the evidence is already in the registry's custody, that his legal team can't touch it, that 11 years of payoffs and 4 bureau accounts and 6 corrupted senior officers are listed by name in a document now being read into the public record. The camera catches it perfectly. Vael's polished certainty drains out of him like water from a cracked glass. The Bureau Blackwatch unit is dissolved by registry order the same afternoon. Kale's phone has 41 unread messages from Cena's number, starting from day 14 when the first news reports connected an unnamed operative to the Dark Zone clearances. The messages graduate in register as the days pass, the first few curious, then concerned, then something closer to frightened as the tribunal summons went out and Vael's name started appearing in the coverage. He knows all of this without reading them. He knows her well enough to map the progression. He sets the phone face down and finishes his noodles. The last operation clears on day 28. Dragon Mark, times 91. Dragon Sovereign Authority, Tier 5 Sealing, not DETECTED. Independent Enforcement Network, 140 registered informants. Registry notification, SSS rank independent registration, processing. The registry posts it to every active bureau screen in Veldran City at 11:47 on a Tuesday morning. Hunter Registry new registration. Class, Dragon Sovereign, Tier, erased/unclassified. Rank, SSS Independent, Operative Kale Dorn, Affiliation none. License number, Sovereign 01. Sealing, not DETECTED. 3 of the Bureau's remaining senior staff draft reinstatement offers before lunch. All 3 are redirected to a law firm that responds with a single line, under review. A 4th officer, Deputy Director Neen, the one who signed the license void order without reading it closely enough, calls the registry directly to ask whether the Dragon Sovereign class can be resealed under Bureau authority. The registry's response arrives in 40 seconds. It is 2 words. It cannot. He walks out of Rook's basement into a gray Veldran city drizzle, collar up, hands in his pockets. The sale district is quiet now, its lights on for the first time in years. The freight district's old loading bays are empty and clean. A few people notice the silver coat. A few more notice what the registry update means, glancing at their phones and then back at the man walking past like he owns the pavement, which in the most literal enforcement sense of the word he now does. Nobody stops him. Nobody would. Sina sends message 42. He doesn't see it. The phone is in his pocket and the city is clean and the noodle cart at the corner of Sale and Iron Gate is open, which is all he wanted this morning. 42 floors above street level, Director Vael sits in a holding cell in his silver cufflinks, waiting for a bail hearing that won't come. Sina stops at message 43. Kale eats in the rain, unhurried, and the dragon never once considers opening the door.